Welcome to Sesh Daily Podcast here on Rewind Indie. How are you doing tonight, Tracy?
Doing all right, buddy. Doing great. Excited to be on Rewind Indy. Maiden voyage, I guess, the first show. So yeah, welcome listeners from Rewind Indy. Just a daily reminder that Seth's Daily Podcast will be on 7 p.m. on Sundays on Rewind Indy. That's 7 p.m. on Sundays, Seth's Daily Podcast. And we'd also like to give a shout out to John and Heidi's show. It's weekdays at 5 a.m. Be sure to tune them in. Great show. So yeah, don't miss that when you get up and get ready to go to work. Listen to John and Heidi.
Absolutely, man. And I know you got a day in history.
Yeah, I always like to start a show out with a little history info. I'm kind of a history guy. So 1917, the U.S. enters World War One. That's where the term doughboys come from. Um, 1974, some of you guys are as old as me. You may remember this, but Hank Aaron breaks Babe Ruth's home run record. He played for the Atlanta Braves at the time. Uh, so that's when you'll see the old videos of him trotting around the bases and people are running out on the field. And one guy comes up and starts patting him on the back, and you'll see his reaction because just days before that, he received death threats from people because he was a black man about to break Babe Ruth's home run record. Crazy, man. Just crazy. To do that to a man just because of the color of his skin. That's that's one thing I've never understood. But anyway, on 1865, Robert E. Lee, good old General Lee, surrenders to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. Now, an interesting story about that is a man named Wilbur McLean had a home, a farm in Sharpsburg, Maryland. Right before the Battle of Sharpsburg, Maryland, he packed his family up from that farm and moved south to Virginia. Robert E. Lee and his troops fought at Sharpsburg. After that battle, I've actually stood on that ground. Um, that's where Dunker Church is at, the Bloody Lane. Um, just thousands of men got injured, hurt, killed in that battle. But that was in 1862. 1865, Lee surrenders to Grant in Appomattox Courthouse. And you'll never guess whose house it was. Wilmer McLean. It's kind of synchronicity, man, how things work. So that's just the quick and short story of it. But yeah, I mean, history's pretty cool if you look at it in different ways.
Yeah, and that's what you got your degree in too.
I do. I do have a history degree. I guess I guess that college education paid off. So I get to tell you guys about things that happened in history today. So, but there you go. So, but how you doing, man? I mean, this being the maiden voyage on Rewind Indy, this is pretty cool.
Definitely, man. Excited to start it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so we were talking earlier about this dire wolf thing, and I've got some mixed feelings about it. Be honest with you. Um,
What's your feelings on it?
well, I mean this is real Jurassic Park stuff here, man. I mean, they're pulling DNA from animals that have been extinct that walked around 10,000 years ago, and they're talking about doing woolly mammoths and things like that now. And I mean, it's only a matter of time when they're going to have dinosaurs again if we keep this up. So my question is when do we stop? we're bringing back extinct animals that can kill us. You know, and, yeah, and the way I look at it is, if we can't eat it, why are we bringing it back?
Can't eat a woolly mammoth. You know they're talking
Yeah,
about bringing back the woolly mammoth in 2028.
yeah. This actually, I got a story pulled up here that it's kind of a conflicting story. It gives you kind of two sides of it. It says on April 7th, Colossal Biosciences announces that they called the world's first de-extinction. That you watch, that word's going to be around. De-extinction. The births of three dire wolves, extinct animals that lived during the ice ages. The pups were instant icons with snowy white coats and muscular bodies. They looked like they have had walked straight out of a fantasy off of the Game of Thrones. But news reports herald that the animals as scientifically seismic, and the dire wolves are back. Still, some scientists aren't buying it. One says, "This is no more a dire wolf than I am Wonder Woman," says Jacqueline Gill at the University of Maine. The issue largely boils down to genetics. Colossal didn't create the animals from a fully reconstructed dire wolf genome. Instead, the company relied on the genetic instruction book of a gray wolf, making changes to it based on ancient DNA recovered from two dire wolf specimens. But Gill says for something to be a dire wolf, it should have a full genetic blueprint of a dire wolf. What Colossus has done, she says, is simply created a genetically modified gray wolf. But that type of thinking kind of misses the point, says Beth Shapiro, Chief Science Officer of Colossal Biosciences in Dallas. Colossus' goal wasn't to create something genetically identical to a dire wolf. She says instead, researchers wanted to reconstruct the animal's core attributes like size of body, type, and face's shape. By making a handful of genetic changes, we have brought these extinct genes back to a living animal. Um, so, Shapiro goes on to say, I'm happy to call that a dire wolf. So, do they have a dire wolf or do they not have a dire wolf? But it goes on, Colossus is no stranger to controversy. Last month, the company acclaimed that the announcement of the woolly mice, luxuriously tested mice, luxuriously dressed mice with the genetic modification inspired by woolly mammoths. The rodent's golden brown fluff made them an internet star, but some scientists were skeptical that such creation brought to the field any closer, didn't any closer, bring back woolly mammoths. So, do we really have a dire wolf, or do we have just a genetically modified wolf with dire wolf traits?
Dire wolf
Yeah,
traits.
yeah, but I mean, you think about it. I got to looking on here at the size of one of these things, and that thing is 150 pounds. Now I know there's some dogs out there that weigh that much. I mean, I had a Great Pyrenees that weighed 140 pounds, and she could almost look you in the eye. She was a big dog, and I'm telling you right now, I would not want her attacking me. You'd have to kill her to stop it. So, and what are we doing? When do we overstep our bounds? When do we cross that line? And when is enough enough?
I think we're close to it, man.
Well, and people just these scientists, and I really don't understand the mystique of bringing back. I mean, you think about it. We're talking woolly mammoths. We're talking dire wolves, possibly dinosaurs, which may be not that far down the road, really. Um, Tasmanian tigers. There's just so many. Megalodon. What do we need one of them roaming the oceans again for? Um, it's bad enough people go to the beach now and they got to fight off bull sharks and jellyfish. Now we got to deal with a shark with a bite, the size of a Volkswagen. When is enough enough?
I think we're almost there, man, because Oh, even a woolly mammoth, that's a dangerous animal. Woolly mammoth is a danger.
Well, I mean, it's twice the size of a regular elephant, and elephants, how destructive those are. They're kind of like the pigs of the elephant world. I mean, they destroy everything. You know how a pig will, if it gets loose, we used to have pigs, and every time one got loose, it rooted up, flowers, neighbors' flowers, and everybody. And then I was getting phone calls. Everybody's getting phone calls. Hey, your pigs are tearing up our stuff, And it's the same thing. You look at some of these places over in Africa where these you know these big elephants are, and they tear up crops, they knock down trees, and I mean, but that's what they do. But why would we add more to that as and even bigger?
Yeah. You know, the closest relative to a woolly mammoth is the Asian elephant.
Well, I mean, I watched a video where an Asian elephant trampled a guy to death. I mean, but uh, think about that though. How many we're really looking at Jurassic Park, man. I mean, they could just within the next maybe 50 years, we could be looking at a Tyrannosaurus Rex in
That's crazy.
real.
Definitely.
Um,
What do you think about the woolly mammoth mice, though? That's crazy.
well, I have a hard time calling a mouse woolly. Um, if you the old adage, the only thing that scares an elephant is a mouse. I mean, that's to me, that's kind of a conundrum there. So,
I can't believe that they made that, though. That's insane. They actually took some of the woolly mammoth like DNA and put it in the mouse.
right. And it's like when we cloned the sheep, what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever. Um, that could be put to use in a good way. I mean, you could clone um, body organs. If you needed a liver, they could clone your liver, or something like that. But when we're bringing back, animals that have been extinct, okay, you know why the dinosaurs went extinct? Because we needed gas. That's why we needed oil. That's why the dinosaurs went extinct. Um, but it's just to me that's scary for one that we can do that, and it's even more scary that we are doing it
And that it worked.
and that it worked. That's right. That's yeah. So I got kind of mixed feelings on it, but according to this article, they just have basically a gray wolf with dire wolf traits. They haven't really made a actual full-blooded dire wolf.
So it does have a little bit of DNA from the dire wolf, though.
It does. It does. Basically, I guess what they're trying to do is get the shape and size of a dire wolf out of a gray wolf.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, this is just the beginning. What can they do in 10 years with this? You know,
Dinosaurs will be roaming Earth again, it seems.
yeah. I mean, you'll be going to Walmart and have to stay in your car because this dinosaur's walking past you, going to eat you or stomp you to death or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
What's really
and
crazy is that they mixed a woolly mammoth with a mouse, man. Like use the woolly mammoth DNA and put it into a mouse. How did they do that? That's crazy.
you know, I know it started out back in 90, I think it was 94. They tried it with the dire wolf once with the mitochondria DNA, and it wasn't successful. So they went with, in 2021, they went with the nuclear DNA, and I guess they got it right this time. Well, somewhat right. They're on the right path,
Yeah, a
if
little
that
bit
makes
of the
sense.
dire wolf blood. Yeah.
Right, right. So,
But the
I
mouse
mean,
thing just that's crazy.
I think of all of the extinct animals that could be brought back. Like I said, I mean, a megalodon. Those things were 50, 60 feet long. They were basically a blue whale that ate meat.
That's
It
not a
would be
good
a true,
combination.
no, it would be like a true Jaws movie. You know, I mean, if you've ever seen the tooth of one, a great white shark, if you see the tooth of one of those, it's about 2.5, 3 inches long. And, a good size great white shark is probably 15 feet long, probably a couple thousand pounds. A megalodon tooth is about 6 inches tall. So that thing would be, I mean, I'm afraid to say it would have to be 40, 50 feet long and weigh probably 15,000 pounds. What do you do with that? You know,
That's
it's not,
something that doesn't need to come back.
no, it's one of those things where nobody would look at that and go, isn't that beautiful? You know, it's like people who handle snakes, and God bless you, people that handle snakes, but I'm not looking at a rattlesnake and going, isn't that beautiful? No, that is a death machine that's got two fangs and wants to kill you.
That's something I've never understood handling snakes.
No, not no, no. There ain't a whole lot in this world that scares me. I can deal with spiders, mice, rats. It doesn't matter. But when it comes to a snake, brother, I'm gone.
That's the way a lot
You
of people
know,
are, man, including myself. I don't want to handle no snakes.
no, and even if you don't, if it doesn't kill you, say a big diamondback rattlesnake would bite you, even if it didn't kill you, you imagine the kind of pain you're going to be in for a while. No, no, I don't want no part of that. I would just assume light my underwear on fire and run through a meth lab than to deal with that. That's the truth.
Uh, yeah, I agree with you though, man. I don't want to handle no snakes at all.
No, no, I'm not dealing with no snakes. That's no, I ain't doing that. I just no. I'm not even thinking about it. It's just no. It's kind of like flying. You know, the job I had, I was over a transportation department for a major parts company, car parts company, and we used to have to fly to these meetings. And basically all it was a bunch of guys getting together, talking about how well they did this quarter, get drunk, and eat some good food. That was basically it. So with this company, I flew into Atlanta, I flew to Chicago, I flew down to Orlando, flew out to LA. And the last flight I was on was from out of Huntington, West Virginia to Atlanta. And that plane, from the time it left the ground to the time it touched down in Atlanta, shook the whole time. And when it started shaking, I looked around and nobody was screaming. So I said, well, this must be normal. So flew down to Atlanta, had our meeting, was down there 3 or 4 days, come back, landed in West Virginia, back up here. And I said, that's the last time I'm getting on a plane. If I get killed by a plane, it will have to land on me. I'm not getting on another one. I don't like heights. I don't like flying. Look, I'd just soon drive. I would drive to Atlanta 3 times before I'd fly down there once. That's how bad I hated it. So no, there'll be no more flying for me. And a friend of mine, well, Joe, Joe, had his pilot license. And he's all the time trying to say, hey, man, let me take you up in that. No, you're not. No, 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 no. You got stuff messed up, brother. We ain't getting in no plane. He said, well, if the engine goes out, you can glide. Well, that's awful funny. There's an awful lot of planes that hit the ground really hard that didn't glide. He said, well, it's not like a helicopter. It just drops out of the air. I said, son, they all drop out of the air. Every one of them. He said, so you'd really drive? I said, listen, if I blow a motor driving down the road, you know what I can do? Pull over on the shoulder. You know what you can't do in a plane when your motor blows? Pull over on the shoulder. It's just, no, it's not happening. I'm not getting on no plane. I'm done with that. No more. So that's my take on flying.
I agree with that, man. I've never been on a plane. Don't plan on it either.
It's it was not a good experience. Every time I got on a plane, I I did not like it at all.
I couldn't do it one time, man.
All I could do was just say, please get me back on the ground.
Get me to
It's kind of
Atlanta.
like it's kind of like one of them things when you would get drunk and get hung over and you'd say, "Oh, never again. I'm never doing this again." And then the next thing you know, you're doing it again. Well, that's what I had to do. I'd get on a plane. I'd go, "I ain't never getting on this thing again. I ain't never getting it." And then sure enough, they'd say, "Well, you got to fly to such and such." I'm like, "No." And then I'd have to go. So, but yeah, that last time I flew to Atlanta, I was like, "No, that's it. Fire me. I'm not going no more. No, rent me a car. I'll drive it, but I will not get on no more planes."
I agree with that, man. Planes are scary for sure.
Safest travel in the world. Tell me that. See, the difference is you crash in a car, you stand a really good chance of surviving. You crash in a plane, your survival rate went down to like 1%. So that's not me.
I know you've been researching tariffs too, man.
Yeah, I mean everybody's got their panties in a wad over these tariffs, and all I can say is don't drink the Kool-Aid and just breathe it out, because basically what tariffs do, and by no means I am no expert on tariffs. I am no expert on the stock market. None of that. This is just my take, armchair, everyday guy that just kind of thinks things through versus believing what everybody tells you on the news. Basically, what tariffs will do, they force bad actors in the whole world into a fair trade. Okay. Um, the U.S. has been screwed so bad for decades over tariffs that we've had to pay. Um, we've had bad trade deals from Republicans and Democrats both with tariffs around the world. Um, but basically, what the bad tariffs are not are us paying tariffs and nobody paying tariffs to us has killed our middle class. I mean, it really has. We've got goods going out that we have to pay for other countries to take. But look how much we have been in. You can't buy anything that doesn't say made in Indonesia, made in China. And though they don't pay us tariffs, or if they do, it's very little. So having tariffs will bring back our middle class a little bit. It's not only that, it's going to bring back our in the industry. We're going to have U.S. steel again. We're going to have U.S. made cars. You know, for the most part, there's going to be some companies that just absolutely refuse to bring their stuff back to the United States. But for the most part, you look at the car companies, it won't be long that the stuff that's made in Mexico is going to come back here, because just across that border, they're going to have to pay a tariff. Um, but another thing about this whole thing is don't believe what you're seeing on the news. They're all screaming how bad we're going to have to pay extra. And that there is some truth to that for a while. But once it gets going, it's not going to be that bad. Um, the people who are going to be screaming are the stockbrokers, and all these news reports are hollering, we're going to go broke. It's the end of the world, blah, 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 blah. All that is these stockbroker companies, they're not worried about your wallet. They're worried about their wallet. And they're taking a hit on their short term gain. But if you know anything about the stock market, these stockbrokers, they hit all these little short ones and make quick money. Where in the long run, the long term stocks is where you retire from. Um, so what they're doing, they're screaming about Trump's tariffs and how bad it's going to be. And the only reason they're doing that is because it's killing their short game, basically. So all I can say is just breathe. Everything's going to be fine. We were paying inflation out the butt with Biden. The inflation's starting to come down. We'll have to pay a little more for tariffs. And that's mainly people who are like looking to buy new cars. Yes, some of your groceries are going to go up. That's just part of it. But in the long run, we're going to get our jobs back. We're going to get our industries back. It's basically like a new industrial revolution ish type, kind of, maybe not the best words, but look at Pittsburgh. Their steel mills are going to be running crazy. Um, Look at Detroit. They're going to start making cars in Detroit again. And I've been around automobiles and parts, and it's been all of them: Dodge, Ford, Chevy. It doesn't matter. They don't make cars here no more. They make parts, and the cars are assembled somewhere else. Well, that'll stop. The cars will be assembled here now. So just breathe it out. Everything's going to be fine. It is not the end of the world. Not yet, anyway. That's my take on tariffs. And like I said, I am no expert. That's just my thinking and how I see things.
I think it will help us out with jobs for sure.
Yeah. And listen, I've said this for years. Um, I think eventually what's going to happen is Canada, the United States, and Mexico are going to become one country. It's not going to be a continent, it's going to be one country. There's only one way you can do that. You have to drop the US dollar to match the pesos. You cannot raise the pesos to match the dollar. That's not even possible. So, how do you drop the dollar? Well, there's several different ways, but one of the big things is get rid of the middle class. And that's what's been happening for years. Everybody talks about, well, the rich don't pay their fair share in taxes. They pay taxes just like I do. If they have find a loophole, so be it. Because I promise you one thing, there is not a single person in this country that has ever worked for a poor man. So give the rich the tax breaks. That don't hurt my feelings one bit. They get a tax break. Hey, maybe we get a raise. Maybe they open another plant. Maybe they open another part of the, whatever business they're in. I'm not worried about the rich paying taxes. You want to make it equal? Lower my tax in the middle class because we pay the highest tax. The rich, when gas goes to $4 a gallon, you think rich people that bothers them? No, not at all. It doesn't affect them whatsoever, but it affects the middle class. Now people are trying to decide, do I need 10 gallons of gas to get to work this week or do I need my heart medicine? Do I need 10 gallons of gas to go to work this week or do I buy a hamburger for my kids this evening? We're the ones that it affects. So if it seems like the first ones that are hollering the rich doesn't pay their fair share in taxes is the Democrats. So if that's the case, are they paying the same taxes? Because I've never met a politician that wasn't rich, not on the national level. So you mean to tell me you're not using the same loopholes as the Republicans? Because if you're not, you're a fool. So you want to do something about it? Lower the taxes on the middle class.
which Trump's trying to do.
Yeah, and I mean it'll be a great thing. Um, everybody, if you just think about it, the middle class represents the biggest section of people in the United States. You're either lower middle class, or upper middle class, but it's all middle class. Who spends most money at Walmart, Amazon, um, local grocery stores, pharmacies? It's the middle
Middle class.
class. So more money that's in the middle class pocket, the more buying is going to go on. Um, and if I can see that, and I'm basically a nobody sitting here doing a podcast, they see it because there's people way smarter than me up there doing this stuff. So I have to ask, are they doing it on purpose or are they just that blind? Because there's a big gap in between rich people and middle class. They don't understand what it takes to make a paycheck. You know, and they don't know what it's like to work 60 hours a week to dig in a ditch or digging coal or driving a truck. Now, I'm not saying that some rich people haven't worked their way to their wealth because they most definitely have. But even at that, sometimes they forget what it's like to make that paycheck. So you want to stimulate the economy, give the middle class tax breaks. Quit worrying about the rich.
Definitely.
So I mean, I don't know. It's almost like it's being done on purpose to get rid of the middle class. And if you believe, in the end of time and one world government and all that stuff, then you're looking at, yeah, the middle class has to go away. So that's always in the back of my mind. Are they trying to get rid of us, or are they just turning a blind eye?
I think they're just trying to get rich.
And you know what? Yeah, you're right. There's not hardly. I bet you polled 10,000 people, and 9,099 of them would say that they're trying to get rich. So, I mean, that's the goal. And whoever said money don't buy you happiness never had it. So, because I believe money does buy you happiness, because if my bills are paid and everything's taken care of financially, I'm a pretty happy cat.
Yeah,
So that bugs me when people says money can't buy you happiness,
it
because
definitely can, man.
I believe it most certainly can.
It can buy you a good steak.
Yeah, man. If I'm, out on a boat somewhere fishing and I ain't worried about bills, I'm a happy camper.
Especially if the fish are biting, though.
Yeah, but if I'm not worried about bills and they ain't biting, that's still a good day.
Compared to working, yeah, it is. It's a better day when they're biting, though. Especially
What's
trout,
that?
man.
What's that old adage? It says a bad day at fishing is still better than a good day at work.
Yeah, that's facts, actually.
I agree. I agree. So I love my fishing.
Me too, man. It's about
Yeah.
that time, too, to fish.
Yeah, up here in southern Ohio, they're turning trout loose on the 26th of April, and I've already got it marked on the calendar. Nobody call me, nobody talk to me, nobody. You won't be able to because I'm not. I'm the one. I'm not taking a phone. Two, if I had it, I wouldn't have no service, and I'm gonna fish all day.
I don't blame you,
Done got it planned, bro.
man. Hey, man, trout fishing's fun, though. That's my
I
favorite fishing
agree.
to do.
Hey, and they're delicious. I don't care what anybody says.
Best fish to eat, man. Trout is.
I agree. I agree with you. Rainbow trout. Oh my gosh, you can't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's what they let loose down here, man. Twice a year though.
They only do it once up here. It's usually in the spring. Usually they've already turned them loose by now. It's usually the end of March. I don't know what the holdup is this year. It's going to be the end of April, but I mean, I'm bringing on. I'm ready. I caught so many trout last year. I still got them in my freezer. I bet I caught 60 trout all season.
That ain't bad.
That's a good
I
season.
did not catch that many. Caught about 10 all year, man.
I was going every day, and I mean, I would get up before daylight. I'd go fish, catch my limit, come home and clean them. Then I'd go to work.
Hey, man, that's a good day.
That's a great day.
It is, man. You're right, though. Rainbow trout. That's the best, man.
That's the best. That is the best. That's good fish right there.
Yeah, and they put up a good fight, man.
Oh man, to be so small. Well, I mean, you catch a good one, it's 2.5 pounds. But if you use light tackle, oh, it's great. I mean, I use ultra light poles, and my reel will only hold 4 pound test line. So it's on. It's a fight.
Just gotta pray you don't get a carp.
Well, if I do, there'll be no. It'll just have to snap the line and go.
You wouldn't eat no carp. That's what.
No, no, no. You can't eat no carp, and there's plenty of them up here where we're at. So
Yeah, some people do eat them though. But I'm good on that.
listen, my son-in-law does, and he fixes them a special way to where they just flake off the bone.
Hmm.
They
He
are
knows
pretty
how to
good.
fix them then.
Yeah, and he does it with the scales on. And after it's cooked, you take the scales off, and that meat's just as white, flaky, and it's really good. It's pretty good.
Hmm.
But up here we got grass carp. That's all they eat. They put them in these lakes up here to eat all the algae out of it.
Yeah, we got some of them. We mostly have Asian carp though.
Yeah,
Yeah. Them Asian carp are fun to catch in the creek though.
yeah. They get big too, man.
Huge, man.
You know, I live right here on the Ohio River. Now I wouldn't dare eat anything out of the Ohio River, but we still fish it just for the fun of it. And I mean, to catch a 15, 20 pound carp, that's pretty average.
That's a good day too, man. They
Yeah,
put up a good fight.
yeah, they do. They freak out. I always judge fish by their attitude. Like catfish, they have bad attitudes. When they get caught, they're mad. A carp is like scared to death. They're trying to run from you.
And they're bigger than most catfish.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, according where you are, there's some huge catfish out there too.
Well, I think the record that's come out of the Ohio River was caught up here at a place called Eureka Dam, and it weighed almost 200 pounds.
It's crazy. They live for a long time too, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're like a turtle. 100 years ain't nothing to them.
That's crazy. It's
So,
untelling what we got in our lakes, and man.
well, I'm telling you, if we used to swim in the river when I was a kid, and we got gar in the river. I don't know if you've ever seen a gar.
I've
Well,
heard about them though.
they're about as close to a barracuda as you could come. They're very long, they're very slender, they're very fast, and the end that bites is full of teeth. And the older I got, the more I got to thinking of them things looking like a barracuda. And barracuda ain't nothing for it to take your finger off. So I was like, you know what? I really don't need swimming that river that bad. It ain't that hot.
I wouldn't swim in it either.
So, but when we were kids, man, we did it all the time. It wasn't nothing. We'd spend the day right there at the riverbank swimming.
Yeah. I got a UFO story, man. This
All
is
right.
from I don't know if this is close to where you're at or not. Charlestown, West Virginia.
Well, is it Charleston or Charlestown?
It's Charlestown.
That's up in the northern part of West Virginia.
All right. This is from February the 26th of this year. At 6:57 p.m., a triangle-shaped blue lights. The object was made up of 7 or 8 blue lights. They were shaped in a triangle with a few more off the right-hand side. They were separated lines of blue light to make up the triangular shape. It traveled from southeast to the northwest very quickly.
Well, I mean, I've told you my story about the triangle that I saw, but um, I don't know that the Rewind Indie folks have heard it. So I'll give you the watered down version. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, um, and this big triangle shape flew across right in front of me. Probably it wasn't no more than probably 200 feet up. And in the world of things flying through the air, 200 feet is not very high. I saw it just as plain as day. I mean, it was about 3 in the morning, but this thing was blacker than the sky, but it had white lights at each point and red lights in between the white ones. Flew directly over top of me, went about a quarter of a mile past me and stopped and flew back across the city of Albuquerque headed towards Mexico. The strangest thing in that it just stays in my mind that this thing made absolutely no sound. There was just no sound to it whatsoever. But it didn't move like a balloon, or a float or something that was floating in the air. It had purpose. It didn't just slowly glide across. It went, stopped, went back across the other way. Um, but when I say it was a UFO, it doesn't mean that it was from outer space. To me, it doesn't. That just means I saw something that I'd never seen before, haven't seen since. Uh, is it from outer space? Could be. There's a lot of there's White Sands Air Force Base. Well, it's not really an Air Force base, but it's uh, top secret squirrel stuff going on out there. Um, so is it something from our military? Is it something from outer space? I don't know. All I know is it flew over top of me and never made a sound, stopped and went back across. And the size of this thing was, if you took 6 tractor trailers and put two on one side, two on one side, and two on the other side, that's how big it was. So, I mean, it was a fairly good size. It wasn't just something that I was squinting to see. I mean, it was there, like a billboard going across the air. So, when I hear people say something about a triangle, I kind of, it piques my interest because for years I heard people talk about, well, I saw this in the sky and I saw this in the sky. And it's not that I didn't believe them, but it was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, never thought anything about it until I saw one. And from that day on, it's changed my outlook on when people say they saw something. And I take that with a grain of salt with anything. If somebody told me, look, I saw Bigfoot, I've never seen one, never thought I seen one, never come close to ever thinking I saw one. But if you think about, there's probably thousands upon thousands of reports of people seeing Bigfoot. And there's just no way they're all fake. There's no way that they're all misidentified. People are seeing something. Is it a North American ape that's been undiscovered? I don't know, but people are seeing something. That's the same with UFOs. I don't think all these people are misidentifying them as planes or balloons or weather balloons or whatever the government wants to tell you. I don't think they're all making it up. People are seeing something. Now, is it our own government testing something? Possibly. Is it from outer space? Possibly. So you think about that for a minute. If you hold your arm out in front of you and stick your thumb up in the air. Our Milky Way system is about as big as your thumbnail. Okay. Space is everything around you. As far as that wall to that wall to the back wall to the ceiling, that's space. If our Milky Way system is as big as your thumbnail and space is that big, do you think we're the only ones that can live, breathe, drink water on a planet? I got my doubts. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I believe aliens are definitely real, man. And
Well,
I
I
believe
mean, you think,
Bigfoot's real too.
you know, I got to go back to my old buddy Don Neal, who is with the KBRO. Probably one of the most honest people I know. He's been a pastor for 50 years. He is not going to jeopardize his integrity, especially being a pastor the way he is, by making this stuff up. Don will tell you straight up, I have never seen a Bigfoot. He's heard tree knocks, he's heard howls, he's heard hoots, he's seen footprints, but he has never physically laid his eyes on a Bigfoot. But his wife has twice. Now, I don't think Don's going to put that out there and jeopardize his integrity by
Hmm.
saying, "Well, my wife has saw one." Um, he has, I know himself, probably thousands of reports, but where he is pretty much the spokesperson of the KBRO, Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. I've known Don several years. Um, that man is more passionate about Bigfoot than anybody I can think of. And he hunts Bigfoot faithfully. He takes vacations just to hunt Bigfoot. He's got some pretty cool recordings. He's got some pretty cool video night vision recordings. Um, so I kind of have to agree with you where I think,
Mhm.
there's something out there. Um, we don't just find footprints in the middle of the woods. People don't go walking through the middle of the woods with a fake Bigfoot and hoping somebody will find it. If somebody's going to do that, they're going to do it in a park close to, a trail or something. Um, but yeah, me and Don have had several conversations
Mhm.
on theories on Bigfoot and things like that. So yeah, I agree with you that I think there's something out there for sure.
Yeah, Don's a good guy, man. Would love to have him back on for sure.
Don is a good guy. And speaking of having somebody on, I'm going to get a hold of Mr. Hahn, Jimmy, and see if he won't come on. He's just wrote a book. For people who don't know who he is, I'm sure everybody knows who the Warrens are. They were big investigators of the supernatural. Had done a couple of exorcisms, and Jimmy was involved in some of those exorcisms. Well, he has written a book about that. In fact, I talked to him today, and he's sending me my copy. He said he's going to mail it out in the morning. So when I get that copy, I'm going to get a hold of him and tell him I got it for one, and then hey, you need to come on because previous podcast that I did before several years ago, Jimmy come on our show several times, and he's a hoot. He's funny. He's from up in I want to say
Connecticut.
New England. Yes, up in New England, Connecticut area, and he has that thick northern accent. And but yeah, he actually had a podcast, and prior to him starting his podcast, he come on our show for the first time, and he was a nervous wreck. I shouldn't probably say that because he's, but um, after he was on our show a couple times, we was like, Jimmy, you ought to, start your own. And the more we pumped him up, the more he got excited about it. Next thing you know, he's doing a podcast and it does great. It does absolutely great. And we were affiliated with a station out of Indiana, and they closed the station down. And I think he's doing another podcast now, but it's not like the one he had before. But it was a good one. But I'm gonna try to see if I can get him on, and I may even shoot Don a message and see if I can pull him out of retirement because he quit doing podcasts, he quit doing interviews. Um, but me and Don go back a little ways. I'll see if I can't coax him out of retirement one more time.
Yeah, we'll definitely have your friend on too.
Yeah, Joe, the ghost hunter extraordinaire is what I call him. Um, yeah, him and I were on a ghost hunting team for years, and him and I did podcasts, and we worked together for gosh, probably 10 years. But we've been friends for probably 30, close to 30 years. But yeah, he's an old boy from Grayson, Kentucky, and as soon as you hear him talk, you'll know it.
Yeah.
Um, but he's got some pretty interesting outtakes on things. So yeah, he'll be a good one. We'll try to get him on pretty soon too.
Yeah, we'll have hopefully Junebug on soon as well. And
Yeah, Junebug in Dark Places. He does his podcast. We'll see if we can't squeeze him over here for a night and see if we can't get him to talk about some UFOs. That's kind of his thing is UFOs.
yeah, he's a good guy, man.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Real good guy. Junebug knows his stuff about UFOs too.
yeah. He does. And he finds these reports, man. I don't know how he does it. He must, if he's not working, he has to be constantly looking at you know these stories about these UFOs. And back a few years ago, he would just randomly, send me a message, say, "Well, I saw one tonight." Because he lives down in southern West Virginia, down in the southern part, down in Williamson, West Virginia. And yeah, he would constantly say, I saw this in the sky, or this didn't look right in the sky, and but yeah, he is constantly, and that's a big thing. People don't see UFOs. Do you know why they don't see UFOs?
Because they don't look
How
up.
many They don't look up. How many times do you go outside and look up?
Never.
If it's not directly in your field of vision, you don't see it. So I mean, how many times has one possibly went over you and you had no idea?
Possibly hundreds of times, I'm telling.
Yeah, exactly. Um, a
Especially
friend
in
of
the
mine,
summertime, man, when people is
well,
outside, it's untelling.
a friend of mine and I, we do some frog gigging. We go catch us some frogs because frogs are delicious. I don't care what anybody says. So we'll go frog gigging. Well, the best time to get frogs is in the middle of the night. So we'll get on the boat and go out in the middle of this lake where it is pitch dark and you can see millions of stars, millions of them. And there's been several times, I would just lay down in the bottom of the boat and look up, and you'd be surprised at what you see. Satellites, you see planes, you see things that don't look right. But yeah, I love doing that, especially you get away from the all the lights of town and lights that are on people's garages or pole lights or whatever, and you get out where it's really dark and you look up, you'll see stuff moving up there.
Definitely, man. And speaking of UFOs, you've heard about the UFO crash in Painesville.
Yeah, the one that supposedly hit the CSX train, and
Yeah, I actually know the person that did that prank. It was a prank. It 100% did not happen. The UFO crash in Painesville.
well, I'm telling you right now, that was a good prank because they had everybody fooled. I mean, there was people down there looking for pieces of UFO, pieces of train, I mean, and people put a lot of time in that, and come to find out it's a hoax. It was kind of like, oh man, are you serious?
Yeah, it was a prank to other employees. It was a prank on other employees of the railroad CSX
Well, kudos,
company.
they did a fine job.
Yeah. They did, man. I know a lot of people thought that they actually like found like the UFO and stuff and took it and hid it and everything, but nah, it didn't even happen.
Wow. And yeah, because I mean, they said that they had that train, tucked away under tarp and in a, I don't know if they call it a train garage or I mean, wherever they keep them, but yeah, they said that it was, hidden and nobody could see it and all that stuff. So, but come to find out, whoever that was, job well done. He understood the assignment, son.
Uh, that was crazy
Uh,
though. That was a good prank though, for sure. They
yeah,
thought
I
they had
mean,
like flying saucers, didn't they? People thought that they was hiding flying
yeah,
saucers and aliens
yeah,
and like you said, hiding the train under a tarp and stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And an old friend of ours, Chad, he was on. We were on the same. We did some ghost hunting together, and we did a podcast with him as well. But he moved, I think, to Virginia. He married some girl and moved to Virginia. But I don't know if he knows that it's fake because he went down and looked for debris and did all kinds of stuff down there. So uh, I don't know if he knows or not. But I guess Junebug knows now, and he went down with Chad, and that's what they done. They were making an actual documentary trying to find information out, about this saucer that hit this CSX train and caused all this damage. And they were looking for debris and looking for where it happened and looking for the train. And they could never really, everything was kind of like a dead end. Well, I guess we know now why.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good prank though. That's
Yeah.
actually been on YouTube channels, man, about UFO sightings around the country. That
Yeah.
train wreck has been on big YouTube channels.
I hate that too because that discredits everything. I mean, yeah, it was a good prank, but it does give a little discredit to, you know, things that, could, that deserve credit if they're out there,
Yeah.
because the last thing, I mean, the last thing you need is it just feeds fuel to the people that don't believe.
Yeah.
Like, I got a friend of mine, I don't care what you do or tell him, he don't believe in any of that. He don't believe in ghosts. He don't believe in demons. He don't believe in UFOs. Now, I have kind of convinced him a little bit about Bigfoot because he's starting to send me little stories about, somebody saw this Bigfoot such and such place. That's so, but yeah, when we were doing these ghost hunts and stuff, I have without a doubt in my mind that these things are real. I've seen and heard things that should have never, um, I should have never heard or seen. They shouldn't have been there. So,
Yeah. Man, it's been a fun episode though.
we'll have to continue next week.
Yes, sir. You can hear us every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Rewind Indie. Everybody have a good night and God bless.
Good night.